It's been a very busy time for displays at this year's Computex 2025 event in Taiwan, and we've been on hand to bring you all of the latest announcements, launches and insider gossip and news. We've brought all of that together into one single place here so that you can get all of the news in a quick and easy to digest format. We've got links to more detailed articles for each of the screens covered in this video below, so let's get on with it right now. Arguably, the main headline announcement this year has been the wide range of 500Hz QD-OLED monitors being announced from most of the leading brands. The fastest OLED refresh rate available to date for amazing gaming experience and motion performance. MSI, Gigabyte, Asus and Acer all had versions on show at the event, and while they weren't there this year, we know that Samsung Electronics have also announced a version of their own recently. MSI have announced two 500Hz QD-OLED monitors in fact. There's the top tier MPG 271 QR-X50, which includes quite a few interesting new features, along with full speed DisplayPort 2.1 connectivity and all the usual range of MSI OLED monitor specs and extras. MSI have added a new AI care sensor to their screen, which detects human presence and turns the screen off when you move away to help reduce the risk of image retention and burn-in. It can also integrate with various Windows screen control features or be used standalone with other systems, including offering automatic adjustments to screen brightness and color temp to suit your changing ambient light conditions. That's the key new feature for the MPG 500Hz OLED monitor. The lower tier version, the MAG 272 QP-X50, this one doesn't have DisplayPort 2.1 or that new AI care sensor, and there's a couple of other minor differences in the spec too. That one will be released a couple of months earlier though, in July, and it will be available at a lower price point as well at $849 US, while the MPG version will arrive in September at $899 US. Make sure you check out our dedicated MSI video for loads more detail on all of the new screens that we delve into here, loads more detail about their specs and differences, as well as all of the other new features like adding BFI and updated HDR mode performance for instance. Do check out that video, it's linked in the description below. Gigabyte were also showing off their 500Hz QD-OLED monitor, the Aorus FO27Q5P, which has a range of high-end features of its own, including DisplayPort 2.1 with full speed bandwidth, added black frame insertion and VRR anti-flicker modes, and even daisy chaining support. Their model will be released in July, but pricing is still being finalised. Asus also showcased their 500Hz QD-OLED monitor, the ROG Strix XG27AQDP at the event, with their own comprehensive set of OLED Care Pro features and their new Neo proximity sensor, which detects human presence to help with burn-in mitigation. Throughout this video you may notice by the way that there's a lot of ROG Strix lineup monitors from Asus as opposed to ROG Swift. We asked Asus about this and they told us that the Strix brand will be used for models now that have DisplayPort 1.4 connectivity moving forward, while the Swift brand will be reserved for top-end models that feature DisplayPort 2.1. Keep in mind that the specs being offered here don't actually need more than DP to 1.4 anyway to power it, and you can still access many of the previously missing features when using DP 1.4 monitors when you pair them with an RTX 50 series graphics card. Check out our recent DP 2.1 video for loads more information and testing on that whole situation. Anyway, that's why many of the new screens from Asus are the ROG Strix series right now. Their model is due to arrive in July, and they said to us that they hope that this would actually be the first to market at a price of $899 US. Finally, Acer were demonstrating their newly announced Predator X27U F5 with the same 500Hz QD-OLED monitor panel. Theirs doesn't have as many of these high-end features, having only DP 1.4 and no fancy things like motion sensors, BFI or the likes. It does have some moderate integrated speakers though, if that's the kind of thing you're after, and their model is expected to arrive to market later around October time. US pricing is still TBC, but we have UK and European pricing as shown here. Elsewhere in the OLED segment, we had a chance to see in person the new 32-inch glossy WOLED monitors from Asus, set up in a demo actually side by side with a semi-glossy QD-OLED monitor and a matte WOLED monitor. These are eagerly awaited by some people as you get very few glossy options from WOLED panels in the monitor segment. The key selling point of these new screens is their native glossy finish to the LG Display WOLED panel, and it's a follow-up to their 27-inch XG27AQ DMG model that Asus released last year. with these new 32-inch models being an exclusive for ASUS at this time, we're told. Their press release talks about how the coating finish has been updated and improved, offering a glossy appearance but reportedly with some anti-reflective capabilities. ASUS have dubbed this True Black and say that it includes a zero haze layer as well as an advanced anti-reflective stack. In the limited demos and testing that we were able to do at their media day, we felt that the screen still looked pretty reflective. They didn't seem to offer much in the way of anti-reflective properties, certainly not on the same level as the semi-glossy QD-OLED panel or anywhere near the matte AG coated models, of course. We'll have to wait for some further testing in our lab and comparisons with other glossy coatings to provide a more thorough analysis, but the initial impression was that it wasn't as anti-reflective as expected based on the press release. They did, however, have a very clean and clear looking image, and it looks like LG Display have managed to eliminate the minor grain that was evident on the previous 27-inch panel, so that's great news. That leads to this zero haze finish that they're promoting. ASUS told us that this was a key change with the new 32-inch panel. The screens still use MLA Plus technology, and there's a little bit of a purple tint to the blacks under direct lighting, but they certainly retain their black depth better than the matte WOLED and especially the QD-OLED panels in bright room conditions, which is one of the key selling points for these panels. For those who love a glossy panel finish for the clean and clear picture that it offers and the well-maintained blacks in the presence of ambient lighting, this should be a really popular choice. There's going to be two versions of this model released later in the year, with a 165Hz refresh rate and the other with a 240Hz refresh rate. They both have other modern ASUS OLED features like their anti-flicker 2.0 modes, Neo proximity sensor and dual mode support as well, where you can double the refresh rate for certain gaming situations to either 330Hz or 480Hz depending on the model. Both versions are expected to be released around August time at prices of $799 for the 165Hz and $948 for the 240Hz version. While we're talking about glossy WOLED panels, we got some exclusive teaser news from ASUS about their future plans. We checked we were okay to report on this, and we were, so we can tell you that they are planning to produce an exciting new 27-inch WOLED monitor later this year. The planned new screen will be using a new 540Hz refresh rate WOLED monitor panel from LG Display that will be available in a glossy version for ASUS to use. This will be a 1440p resolution screen, but having previously held the record for the highest refresh rate with their 480Hz OLED panel, only recently being surpassed by Samsung Display with their new 500Hz QD-OLED panels, it looks like LG Display are going to take the lead again with 540Hz later this year. The panel will have the same zero haze true black glossy coating as the 32-inch models that we've just discussed, and we're told this is likely to be announced formally in Q4, almost certainly on show at CES 2026 in January, or perhaps earlier at Gamescom in August as a prototype if we're lucky. ASUS also told us they were planning to refresh their existing 27-inch model from last year with that new zero haze true black glossy coating, again with similar timescales. Another very exciting piece of OLED news came from Gigabyte with their announcement of the world's first 4th gen primary RGB tandem WOLED monitor. The MO27Q28G is 27 inches in size with a 1440p resolution and 280Hz refresh rate. Breaking from recent tradition, Gigabyte are expanding their OLED lineup to use LG Display's WOLED panels rather than sticking only with Samsung Display's QD-OLED panels, which is what they've been using for the last couple of years. Great news for consumers as it will offer more choice and variety. The new WOLED panels feature their latest panel structure, doing away with MLA Plus technology and shifting to a 4-layer structure which should offer brighter performance and better efficiency. We've got a whole video about 4th gen WOLED, so check that out if you want to know a lot more about this. Note that although this is referred to as primary RGB tandem, that's referring to the panel's light emitting layer structure, not the subpixel layout which remains RGWB at this time. It's also got a standard matte anti-glare coating as well. We know that it will have a 1500 nits peak brightness spec and a 335 nits for full screen white spec as well, which is decent and meets the upgraded Display HDR 500 True Black tier. Other brightness specs and performance are still to be confirmed. Further specs and info on this exciting new screen are on our main website, but this one is expected to be released around July-August time at a very attractive price point of only $499. Keep in mind that that's a global pricing structure and could be subject to import tariffs. In some exclusive news, Asus told us that they were looking to develop a primary RGB tandem WOLED monitor of these specs as well later in the year, but there's no further details on that yet. Maybe we'll see something about that at Gamescom if we're lucky in August. Let's have a break from OLED for a minute and come back to some other OLED options in a minute. It's hard to imagine a time when these kind of monitors were the norm, but there were some exciting and decent LCD monitors on show at Computex this year. Like the 500Hz OLED market, it seems several vendors are now competing over the super high refresh rate eSports market too. First up, MSI had their MPG 242R X60N, which is a 600Hz gaming monitor on show at the event that we first saw back at CES in January, and that at the time was only going to be released in China. We're told now that this will be released in key regions in June at a price of $999. It's a 24-inch size monitor aimed at esports and competitive gaming with a 1080p resolution, rapid TN film panel and a whopping 600Hz refresh rate. This should offer exceptional motion clarity and gaming experience. Digging through the on-screen menu and specs also confirmed the availability of an MPRT sync mode, which offers blur reduction that can be used at the same time as VRR. Asus also took the opportunity at their media day to announce their ROG Strix Ace XG248QSG, which is another 24-inch size TN film screen with a 1080p resolution. Asus have taken it a little bit further still with the native 600Hz panel offering a minor overclock to 610Hz. This is clearly just chasing numbers at this stage of course, but there you go. Asus promote the addition of Extreme Low Motion Blur 2 on their model, which has been updated to offer a multi-zone edge backlight that is designed to help ensure the image remains clear and clean across the whole screen, not just in the centre, while also allowing them to push 370 nits brightness in eLMB mode, which is impressive. We did some quick testing and thought that the blur reduction mode looked consistent across the screen, which was great news. It doesn't look like this can be used at the same time as VRR though on this model. The screen will be released in August at a reasonable price of $799. Ultra high refresh rate LCDs don't have to be small TN film panels though. ASRock told us that they were developing two primary product lines in their expanding Phantom gaming lineup. One is OLED monitors that we'll talk about in a moment, but the other is high refresh rate LCDs. They had two on show at Computex. The first is a 27-inch IPS screen that we've actually recently reviewed with a 1080p resolution and 520Hz refresh rate. That's a very high refresh rate for an IPS panel, but with a larger screen size and panel that can offer better all-round performance than TN film outside of just gaming. It could be an interesting option for some people. That's available now, and you can check out latest pricing using the links below. The second high refresh rate LCD gaming screen bumps the resolution up to 1440p on a 27-inch IPS panel, but lowers the refresh rate to a little lower at 400Hz. It's for those who want a higher resolution and pixel density for a more detailed image on a screen this size, and that's a nice step up from 1080p. This is a new model due to be released in Q3 sometime, but pricing is still to be determined. While we're talking about high refresh rate gaming LCDs, we should quickly say that there was no sign of any of the finalised G-Sync Pulsar monitors at Computex, unfortunately. We asked Asus about their long promoted 27-inch 360Hz model that we saw as a prototype back at Gamescom in August 2024, and they told us that this was still being developed and should be showcased in its final form at Gamescom this year. That's in August 2025, of course. Then it should be released later in the year, around Q3 probably. Acer had a prototype of a screen that they announced at CES, which is their 31.5-inch G-Sync Pulsar IPS monitor with a 5K resolution. This offers 5120 by 2880 at 165Hz natively, an impressive spec and pixel density first of all. It can also support a dual mode function which drops to 1440p at 330Hz, which is another good option on a screen this size. These refresh rates were actually slightly updated from the original announcement back at CES, where it was listed as 144 or 288Hz. It's in a very early prototype stage at the moment. It didn't even have a working on-screen menu, and the G-Sync Pulsar feature was apparently not functioning either. It does look like it will have a glossy panel coating though, which is unexpected, but given its early development stage, we'll mark it as TBC. Acer told us that it will probably be launched in Q4, but we won't hold our breath given how long these Pulsar screens seem to be taking and the fact that it's in an early prototype stage. Good news for anyone eagerly awaiting those G-Sync Pulsar monitors that will be released at some point, as at least they're still in the pipeline. In other LCD news, there were a few dual mode monitors announced. Probably most interesting was MSI's eagerly anticipated mini LED monitor with 1152 local dimming zones, peak brightness of over 1000 nits and display HDR 1000 certification. It's the only mini LED monitor that we saw at the event actually, but it should offer an excellent combination of gaming and HDR performance in the LCD space. It's 27 inches in size with an IPS panel with a 4K resolution of 160Hz, with the option to drop to 1080p at 320Hz in the dual mode function. Even though this has a high-end mini LED backlight and an impressive spec, the retail price will be an attractive $499 when it's released in July. We saw some other dual mode LCD monitors at Computex as well from Gigabyte, although these are standard LCDs without a mini LED backlight. Their model that they were showing was the M27UP, which is 27 inches in size with 4K resolution, 160Hz refresh rate, and a dual mode support that offers 1080p at 320Hz. Their model includes features like Aim Stabilizer Sync, which offers a blur reduction mode that can be used at the same time as VRR, and theirs is expected to be launched in late June at a very impressive price point of $299. That's pretty amazing, to be fair. They also have a white version of this same screen being released as the M27UP Ice Edition, with the same specs and features, but it will be popular for those who have an all-white system and setup. That's expected to be released around the same time at a probably marginally higher price point of something like $310. Gigabyte had one other LCD on show, which was their M27Q2, a 27-inch IPS screen with a 1440p resolution and 200Hz refresh rate, which should be released in July at around $250 to $300, we were told. There were also a few smart TV monitors on show this year, including options from Gigabyte, ASUS and Acer. Gigabyte had the M27QS, which is 27 inches in size and built around an IPS panel with a 1440p resolution and 180Hz refresh rate. It has built-in Google Smart TV, offering loads of streaming apps and smart TV type features for those who want a combination TV and monitor, ideal perhaps for a bedroom or dorm room. There's some integrated speakers, an Ethernet port, a KVM switch function, and a handy remote control as well. This screen is expected to be released around July, August at a price of $249. Acer also had a couple of Google Smart TV monitors on show at the event. First up was the Nitro GA321QKP. This is a 31.5-inch LCD screen with a VA panel. It's got a 4K resolution, 165Hz refresh rate, and a fairly rare white design again. Theirs has got Google Smart TV, a built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and Google Cast support as well. No word on availability for that one yet. Acer also showcased their Nitro GA341CUR-W0. That's a 34-inch ultra-wide curved screen with a VA LCD panel. It's got a 3440 by 1440 resolution and 240Hz refresh rate. Again, Google Smart TV functionality, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support, Google Cast. No word on timeline for that either. So two different models with Smart TV functionality from Acer in their Nitro lineup. ASUS's model was a different format altogether, actually offering a 34-inch ultra-wide QD-OLED monitor with Smart TV functionality built in. The ROG Strix XG34WCDMTG, that's a bit of a mouthful, has an 1800R curvature, and this will be the first time actually that ASUS have offered a 34-inch ultra-wide monitor with a QD-OLED panel. This also offers a more subtle curvature than their previous 34-inch WOLED monitors. It's got a 3440 by 1440 resolution and 240Hz refresh rate, being based on the same QD-OLED panel as other 240Hz models that we've seen in recent times, but theirs has got this Google Smart TV function built in with streaming apps and so forth. It's also got some integrated speakers and a provider remote control, and theirs supports Dolby Vision HDR and Dolby Atmos sound too. That's being released in Q3 at an expected price of $1,049. This was the only 34-inch ultra-wide OLED monitor announced at the event, by the way. No sign of any others. We've got some interesting news on ultra-wide OLED panels coming soon though, so do hit subscribe to make sure you stay up to date. You won't want to miss that. That ASUS 34-inch QD-OLED Smart TV segues us nicely back into more OLED monitors. Let's talk about a few more budget-friendly options that we saw being launched. Gigabyte had their MO27Q2A on show, which is a 27-inch size screen offering 1440p at 280Hz. It's got a QD-OLED panel, and that's got a new mid-tier refresh rate for QD-OLED panels in general, but allows for a very competitive price point of $499 when it's released in the coming months. MSI had their equivalent MPG 272 QPW-X28 on show as well, which offers the same 27-inch 1440p 280Hz QD-OLED panel, paired here with a familiar range of MSI OLED monitor features and with a rare white design for those who've got a white system and setup. Their screen is being launched in July at a price of $599. ASRock's Phantom Gaming PGO27QFV provides an alternative option with a 27-inch 1440p 360Hz refresh rate QD-OLED panel, so it's a little bit higher than those 280Hz models that we've just discussed. Like most of their other monitors, it includes integrated Wi-Fi antenna and a KVM switch function, and this one is also now available to buy in fact. The pricing shown is correct at the time of recording, but you can check the latest pricing and availability using the links in the description. Sticking with 27-inch OLED monitors for a moment, Acer announced their new X27X. That's a 27-inch QD-OLED monitor with a higher 4K resolution and 240Hz refresh rate. They're a bit later to the party than other manufacturers with this offering, as we've seen many others release their 27-inch 4K OLED monitors earlier this year, but it's another option that you could consider when it's released later in the year around September time. In larger OLED sizes, we saw some new 32-inch OLED monitors at the event as well. ASRock had two 32-inch offerings in fact, with the PGO32UFS, which we actually recently reviewed as well just before Computex, and that's being launched to the market now. This has a 4K resolution and 240Hz refresh rate, built around a WOLED technology panel with dual mode support for 1080p at 480Hz if you'd rather. Like many of their monitors, again, this has a unique feature from ASRock, which is their integrated Wi-Fi antenna that's featured here on this model. It's competitively priced as well at $900 and it's available now. They've also now announced their alternative PGO32UFSA, so that's the same model but with an A on the end of it. This is a 32-inch 4K 240Hz OLED monitor, this time built around a QD-OLED panel instead of WOLED. There's no dual mode support on that panel, but the rest of the spec remains fairly similar to the UFS version, and it again includes integrated Wi-Fi antenna and a KVM switch. That's expected to be released in Q3 at some point, but pricing is still to be confirmed. Asus announced a new 32-inch OLED monitor with their ROG Swift PG32UCDM-R, an eagerly awaited update to their popular PG32UCDM model, so the same model with an R on the end of it, which presumably stands for refresh. It's built around the same 32-inch 4K 240Hz QD-OLED panel as their previous model, but Asus have now added full-speed DisplayPort 2.1 connectivity, as well as their new OLED Care Pro technologies and Neo proximity sensor to bring it up to date with some of their more recent models. That's due to be released in Q3 at $1,299. There was no sign of any larger format OLED monitors at the event though. We asked Asus about any plans to refresh their 42-inch or 48-inch models, but we were told that the focus is now more on mainstream monitor sizes now that there's so much development in those panels. Gigabyte said the same thing to us, no large format OLED monitor plans. Both told us that they also don't have any plans to release any 45-inch ultra-wide OLEDs at this time, even using the new 5K 2K panel. It's considered too much of a niche segment. Hopefully they'll continue to look at the smaller ultra-wide panels when they're updated at some point. LG Electronics then for now will be the only ones offering the new 5K 2K resolution 45-inch ultra-wide OLED monitors with their 45GX950A, which we reviewed recently. There was no word on any competing models from anyone else at Computex. LG Electronics weren't there at the event by the way, and so no news from them at all. It's too early for any 34-inch or 39-inch 5K 2K ultra-wide monitors too, but we know there are plans to develop those kind of panels from LG Display, so hopefully towards the end of the year we'll see some more news there. Our guess would probably be for CES 2026 in January for any news on those. Right, I think that's all of the OLED monitors, so let's finish up with a few non-gamer displays from the event too, as not everyone's after super high refresh rate and gaming features. Asus were demonstrating their long promoted but finally soon to be released ProArt PA32QCV, a 31.5-inch size monitor with a very high 6K resolution and 218 ppi pixel density. As part of their ProArt series, it's aimed at professional users and colorists looking for high levels of accuracy and performance. It's expected to be released in June, we were told. There was no sign of their upcoming 8K resolution ProArt monitor though at Computex. Acer also announced a few professional monitors in their Pro Creator range. There was the 31.5-inch sized PE320QXT, which has a 6K resolution and 218 ppi pixel density. That's an IPS panel, and this was quite unique in style as it had a glass front and a touchscreen support as well. It's also got a versatile ergo stand design and even an included 8-megapixel webcam. It's due to be released in October, we're told. They also had a smaller 27-inch model announced, which was the PE270XT with the same 218 ppi pixel density but a slightly lower 5K resolution to fit into that smaller screen size. It's IPS again with the same feature set as the 31.5-inch size model. The third Pro Creator model announced was the PE320QKX. This is actually a 32-inch QD-OLED monitor but aimed at professional users and creators. It's got a 4K resolution and 240Hz refresh rate, but doesn't have the glass coating, touchscreen functionality, or of some of those other features of the LCD models that we've just discussed. ASRock announced a new entry-level LCD screen as well, worth a quick mention, which is a modestly spec'd 27-inch IPS panel with 1080p resolution and 240Hz. This is a white design model though, aimed at general office users and those who've got a white system setup. Hopefully that will be an attractive price point when it's launched in Q3. So there's all the best monitor news and display news from Computex 2025 from all of the big names in one place. You can find more information on most of these on our main website, so do check out the links in the description below. We've got a couple of deep dives, one into MSI's monitors, one into Gigabyte's monitors, linked on our channel as well, so make sure you check those out for loads more information about their screens. While I was in Taipei, I took the chance to meet up with Tim as well from Monitors Unboxed. We recorded an hour-long podcast for featuring on their channel soon, where we talk about all things monitors, and then we also did a shorter video that I'll publish on this channel in the near future as well, where we talk about our highlights from the event and go over some of the gossip and insider news, the stuff that we're actually allowed to share with you from Computex, that is. So look out for both of those pretty soon. Let us know in the comment section below which one you're most excited for, and make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date on all of our other news and coverage coming up. Thank you for watching and sticking around till this point. We'll catch you next time.